Hello, and welcome back to the Satoshi Show. My name is Satoshi Nakamoto, and with me as always is my partner in love and in life, Ling Labrador.
Hello, yes, this is Link Labrador. How is everyone doing today? And we're going to dive right into a very special episode about Ukraine, Russia, what's going on, and how much has Russia fallen apart in the last 24, 48 hours now that we're done talking about that submarine.
Yes. We have had a very interesting week of news, that's for sure. Must have been a slow news day for people to be talking about this crazy submarine so much. Oh my goodness. I did not think that those stories were ever going to go away.
Yes. As far as the submarine, my husband and I, we were making bets about how sunk the submarine was.
Yeah.
Turns out it imploded on Sunday and we didn't need the media circus. It could have been wrapped up in about 8 minutes.
Right.
No, it turned into 3 days worth of circus. Why so much circus?
3 days worth of circus, indeed. The people involved, it's, a tragedy for any family to have to go through that. That being said, the memes were very funny. Apparently, the sub was being controlled by some type of Logitech game controller, which, just so that our older listeners know, the Logitech controller is what you give your little brother when you don't want him to do well in the game because it's a crappy controller.
Well, no, that's not true at all. The Logitech controller did survive the implosion of the submarine, and Logitech has always been known for creating quality products.
Well, I was surprised that they actually found the controller on the bottom of the ocean. That was pretty funny.
Absolutely.
So the biggest news at the moment is that, apparently, a paramilitary or mercenary group is currently invading the city of Moscow. The apparent situation is that the Wagner group was hired to help the Russian army in Ukraine. But for some reason, the Russian army has now turned on them and started firing on their position. And unsurprisingly, if you start firing missiles at mercenaries, they start firing back, regardless of how much you've paid them. So,
correct.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think Russia is in a very interesting loop of they're ready for revolution. They're tired of what's going on, and this is how they decide to turn the wheel of their society through revolution.
Well,
frequently.
They've certainly done it before. I find it very interesting that the Soviet Union lasted for as long as it did, but there were many revolutions. Not a lot of people know that, there's the Red Revolution, obviously, the one that turned Russia communist, but not a lot of people know that there were pretty consistent revolts.
Well, there was the Bolshevik Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
They did revolutions. For them, revolution's like a Tuesday for us.
Right.
Oh no, a politician said something weird. Revolute.
Revolute.
Revolute time.
I love it. Well, I think that any self-respecting mercenary would be upset if the army that hired them started firing on them. And I think that it is very likely that Putin will be thrown out of power. He has been a dictator for, 20 years at this point? And like you said, the Russian people are sick of it. They have gone through tons and tons and tons of inflation, so, wiping out the savings of ordinary people. And the average wage in Russia is something like equivalent of $900 a month in US dollars, which is, just to put it into perspective.
Basically nothing.
Right. Just to put it into perspective for people, that's about a fifth of the United States in terms of median income.
Correct.
That is disgraceful for such a powerful and modern economy to not be serving their citizens and by making it so it's so difficult for people to live, and then asking them to go fight in a war. Like, geez, they did not think this through.
Nope, they did not. They also didn't expect the war to last. They also didn't expect the war to last, what, 2 years?
No. It's been a while, but the claim at the time from people who were on the inside or had insider knowledge was that the Kremlin was planning to take Ukraine in less than a week. Well, it's been 100 weeks now, and still you have not accomplished your goal, Mr. Vladimir. Good job. You have screwed yourself, good sir.
Yes, you have made a very simple action of leave Ukraine alone into a not intergalactic debacle. That would be weird. A international debacle with the let's think. Who said no, this was a bad idea? Let's go down the list, because I'm sure the audience isn't keeping track. We are, but you guys aren't. So, the list of people that told Russia this was a bad idea. Sing it with me now, brother! Do you want to sing it, or shall I sing it?
Go ahead!
I will sing it. Win the world of Switzerland, Al-Qaeda, Canada, the United States, Mexico,
NATO, obviously.
Let's think. Who else said it was a bad idea?
Everyone.
Literally everybody.
Let me put this into perspective for people as well. Even people within the Russian state, even people within the military were against this. It's essentially, from what I've heard, it's just Putin himself is the only person in favor of this war. And hopefully
that gets
consequences for his actions.
Hopefully that gets rectified today, tomorrow, sometime soon, hopefully.
Yes, it is incredible that it has taken this long, but this was basically inevitable. I mean, you can't just fight a forever war with a former state. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine if Texas had broken away from the United States and then, we were asked to go invade Texas?
Oh, wait, it happened once. It was called the American Civil War, and that lasted, 5 years, maybe? How long did the American Civil War last?
About 5 years, yeah.
That only lasted about 5 years.
Yeah.
So it has happened.
Oh, of course.
It doesn't end well, and yes. Now, hopefully this debacle, this international debacle, can be resolved so whoever runs the world, or at this point, who actually cares, can get along and go do what they were planning on doing with their evil, stupid plan to take over the world or whatever. They can have it. I don't want that headache.
The simple fact is that people on every side,
correct,
on basically every country, basically every person in power, and it's rare. It's rare for something to unite basically everyone on Earth. But
happens once a decade or so, give or take.
Yeah,
it has to take a really big thing,
right?
Like 9/11 or the Queen dying. I'm getting really tired of living through once-in-a-lifetime events every Tuesday.
Right. Well, the problem, there are many problems with this, but one of them is the news cycle does not have any distinction between something that is an actual once-in-a-lifetime global emergency and something that is
a Tuesday.
A Tuesday, right. A submarine went down. Oh, no.
It's a Tuesday.
That is tragic for the families involved, but really, they're the only people that this affects.
I mean, it's tragic for the families. Now the families have to figure out what to do with the wills of these billionaires. I think the families will be fine.
Right.
I'm not weeping any crocodile tears for these people. I've seen, I have seen true suffering. A couple of lost billionaires, not worth my time.
Right.
not worth my energy even thinking about. So let's move on.
Fair enough. What do you think is going to be the biggest threat to the United States in the next 100 years?
Ourselves?
Yeah.
Mostly?
Yeah, no question.
Super volcano detonating?
I mean, that is possible, but unlikely.
Something happening on the interior of the United States that destabilizes the United States from within, allowing the world to essentially invade and or take advantage of a weakened country.
Yes.
That is the biggest problem we face, is how do we deal with the rest of the world and the rest of the world wanting our stuff?
Well, fortunately, as a world economy, we have figured out this, distribution of resources by money.
Correct.
Countries used to go to war all the time over resources, and now we don't. Thank goodness.
No, we go to war with ideas. We go to war in the puritanical sense of bidding wars.
Yeah, and now to be fair, there are a lot of inequities that need to be worked on. The rich countries are able to bid on, things like vaccines or medical research or something like that. Obviously, the richer countries have more money to bid on that kind of thing. But
correct.
So we have a long way to go to make sure that the people of the world are able to have access to the same rights and freedoms and healthcare and research and all of this. But that brings us to a very interesting point, which is, we have talked about it several times before, but it is still an important and interesting topic. ChatGPT and other similar programs. It's been about, a month or two since we've spoken about it last on the program. And even in that short space of time, hundreds of companies have sprung up to be able to take advantage of this incredible new technology. And it is just mind-boggling to me how fast that it's progressing. AI art, just a few months ago, you could barely make whatever representation that you were looking for. It looked basically just like blobs. And now people are making portraits of real people, like trained on an individual person's likeness, or making art that is, as someone who has studied digital art and has been a professional digital artist in the past, like as good as a 10 years experience digital artist, and you can barely tell. You would have to be an expert to be able to tell that it was made by an AI and not by a human being. And the simple fact is that these things are only going to continue. They are only going to continue to get better, because they get better much faster than human beings can get better at something. They get better at superhuman or robot speed. What do you think is going to happen in terms of these new technologies?
I think these new technologies are a net benefit to humanity and a net benefit to society as a whole. At the end of the day, progress is progress.
Right.
And it comes down to the individual to decide on what technological level you are willing to live on. Mm-hmm. Do you want to be more like the Native Americans? Do you want to be the Amish, or do you want to be the one chasing the latest Gucci and Louis Vuitton trend?
Right.
Or do you want to be more of a conservative, buying the Rolex, knowing that the Rolex is going to go up in value, and live a somewhat modest life? It's up to you to decide on what you want to do as far as technology goes.
Yeah, I think this is an important point that a lot of people miss, is that you should engage with technology as much as you are comfortable with.
Correct. That's what people forget, that they have a choice to decide.
Right. And, the rat race, so to speak, in terms of technology is just ever increasing in speed. And so I've seen videos and I've seen posts by people, who have been documented by journalists, for example, because, they live in this interesting way. People who live as if it is, 1890. Or, the Amish are another good example, like you said. People who live as if it is around 1850.
Reminds me of a book called The Ear, the Eye, and the Arm. It takes place in Zimbabwe after Zimbabwe basically fell apart. Then they have flying cars, radioactive waste, all sorts of shenanigans, all sorts of chaos. But in the middle of the city is just a small commune of people that choose to live like their ancestors did.
Right.
And it's completely sanctioned by government. And if they don't want anyone in the door, they just block up their door and leave them alone.
Right. There's a very funny sketch that was posted on College Humor that was, if you want to opt out of Google is giving you the option to move into this, internet-free prison.
Wasn't that a Onion article as well?
I think so. The Onion has done a lot of similar stuff, but
The Onion's brilliant. And yes, at this point, reading an actual news article and reading The Onion, which is which? It seems just as insane as the last one.
It really is.
When satire becomes, really? Is this satire or did this actually happen? Let me go check. I have to, every so often, increasingly often these days, I hear a news report.
Right.
I hear a news report, and I have to go through and I have to check it to see if it's true or not. I'm like, is anyone else talking about this? What is going on with this weird specific thing?
Well, unfortunately, it is going to be much more difficult to check your sources in the future, because if you can create a source out of nothing, the ability to create things like news articles. Your news articles used to be a good vetted source of information. Right. If you read something in a newspaper, generally speaking, it's true. Now, that is not always the case.
Nowadays, you have to look it up, see if anyone else is talking about, and then determine for yourself what is true, what isn't true, what's going on in this world. Who knows what's going on in this world? So at this point, I open up my news app, I take a look at the news, I go, what's interesting today? I get it, I've heard about it, 30 other people are talking about the same exact topic in the same exact way. Hey guys, we're doing this, and hey guys, I'm like, everyone just sounds the same. People, please, I got other stuff to worry about.
Right. I know you're speaking about TikTok as well.
Yes.
People just repeating whatever the latest gossip or news is.
Yeah, I've honestly just stopped recording stuff on TikTok because, yes, it gets views, but it's not an individual voice. It's a crowd of people all saying the same thing. Right. It's quite shocking of going, well, this person, and this person, and this person, and this person. There's 30 of them all at the same time. I'm like, guys, is there nothing else going on we're talking about?
Right. Well, how can people be more careful about what news they consume?
I don't think it's possible to be more careful at this.
Really?
At this stage, it's not about how careful you are about what news you consume. It's if you choose to consume it or not.
Interesting. Because a lot of people have taken the approach of like, oh well, how do I determine what is true and what isn't? And you're saying that an alternate approach is to just opt out.
Correct. Yeah. Opt out, and if something earth-shattering and world-ending coming at you, we have the alert system for a reason.
True.
It's so. In the state we live in, we get thunderstorms every so often.
Right.
Thunderstorms, tornadoes, whatever. If it's severe enough, the local government gives everyone a heads up of, hey guys, severe weather coming in. Get inside.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if people start arguing with their local weather services sometime in the future. Like, oh, you told me to stay inside while there was a tornado? Well, I'm going to protest by standing outside.
Good. Protest. Remove yourself from the gene pool if you want to stand outside while a hurricane or tornadoes coming at you, I'm not holding the door open for you. I might just lock the door behind you. Good luck. You're on your own.
It's just interesting to me, how people trust on some things and don't trust on others. Like you see people, one, saying we shouldn't follow the crowd, and then you see people following the crowd of not following the crowd. It's like,
well, there's following the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Following the crowd to your own detriment, and following the crowd to your own liking, to your own comfort level.
Right.
If your friends are jumping off a bridge, well, either you're the first one jumping off the bridge, or you look, see what's going on. Judge for yourself. It's not don't take risk, it's take measured risk. Take careful risk. Risk is what gives you experiences in this world and gives you education in this world. If you don't take risks in education, you remain a rock. A rock doesn't take any risks, it sits there.
Right. You have to be able to adapt to whatever situation that you're in, and part of that is becoming resilient, being anti-fragile, as we talked about before. Anti-fragility is a concept that we greatly encourage our listeners to learn and understand, because
right now we're sitting here, we're painting little Warhammer models.
Absolutely.
Actually, D&D models specifically.
Yes, you might hear a couple of sounds of the paintbrush or the water or something like that.
Yes.
We are painting some absolutely lovely little game models.
Correct. But anti-fragility is a lovely word, is a lovely way to look at the world.
Yes.
Yes, you can have $10 million in your bank account. Yes, you're anti-fragile against nearly everything.
Right. So you are resilient because you can basically pay your way out of any problem that you have.
But keep in mind, you're still a human being. You still have flaws, and doesn't matter how much money you have in this world. If you're at the bottom of the ocean,
right,
and you want to go to the bottom of the ocean in a sketchy, hole-built something or another,
right,
all the more power to you.
There was an interesting post that I saw of people asking ChatGPT if carbon fiber was a good choice of material for a submersible. And of course, keep in mind that this model is trained up until data of 2021. So, of course, it has no idea about this current story. But the ChatGPT was like, no, it's a terrible idea for material for a submersible. And, the community was pointing out that this is going to be a tool for people in the future to use to fact-check people's claims. So this is getting back to the fact-checking that we were talking about before. We will have an unfortunate amount of robots fact-checking other robots, and there is this whole debate about poisoning the data, which people are trying to avoid. People putting incorrect or quote-unquote false data. One of the problems is determining what is true and false, because something that you and some of our more conservatively minded listeners may be interested in learning,
yes,
is that these large language models like ChatGPT and similar have been tested, and they significantly lean to the left on the political spectrum.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like,
you mean they're conservatives?
They lean to the left.
Oh, so they're crazy liberals. Got it.
Right. So that's one way to put it, is they lean liberal on the liberal spectrum of ideas. And my guess is that this is because they have been trained on models that are heavily influenced by academic texts. If you have an academic text, it is somewhat, or should I say, very likely for it to be left-leaning in its political ideology.
Well, when it comes to left and right, here in the world, it really boils down to how much X, Y, and Z are you willing to accept?
Right.
Are you willing to accept an insane amount of... here's a liberal idea. We need to apply paint to every single building, and every single building needs to be hot pink. Liberally hot pink. The conservative would say, well, I don't want my building to be hot pink. I don't like that color. I think we should have it in a slightly different color. No, you can't do that because it goes against what I say, because I'm a liberal and I'm right.
Now, you bring up an interesting point.
Yes.
And this is, I'm interested to speak with you about this, because this is a topic that I have not heard this specific argument from anyone other than you. My guess is that it would be a very common argument on conservative talk radio, but I have not listened to nearly as much of it as you have. From my understanding, a conservative would generally want a solution that has to do with freedom of choice.
Correct.
And a liberal would generally want a more like one-size-fits-all solution.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. That makes sense. So how can we find a compromise in these divided times when it comes to these types of one-size-fits-all versus all the choice in the world solutions?
Well, compromise is a very interesting and dirty word here in the United States.
True.
You can't compromise with somebody without losing something. Oh, I must lose this to compromise with you. I must have this thing, and I must have that thing. I must lose something to be able to... No, you can do both.
Right.
You can have the coal power plant contracts, and you can have the contracts for the solar power plant. Do both.
Right. Well,
pander to each base. Oh, coal is so evil, so dirty. Well, the opposite is, oh, solar power. Well, we want to put solar power in that we have nothing but trees in this town, in this city, in this state. We have nothing but trees. What do? Well, we could just cut into the side of the mountain and pull the coal out. No. We can't do that because that's evil and that's harming the mountain. It's not. We have to chop down all of the trees and put up all of these solar panels. Well, that's not really a compromise of any sort, now is it?
No. The compromise that we have to come to in terms of... we'll take green energy as a good example. The compromise that we have to come to is, one, we have to figure out what level of emissions that people are comfortable with.
Correct.
And unfortunately, the world has simply come to the agreement that it's as much as possible, which is ridiculous.
And then there's some states saying, emissions, we can't have any emissions whatsoever. It has to be completely green. Everything has to be green. Everything has to be perfectly green and perfectly clean. Meanwhile, those states have unfettered, uncontrolled homelessness, crime, drug abuse, violence on a near unprecedented scale. But it's okay, guys. All the cars are electric now. How does that help anybody?
One of the problems with complicated issues is that they have to be considered in what is called multivariate way.
Correct.
A way that considers many different variables at once.
Yes.
And this is one of the things that is so backwards in our society is, we can have, the entire world focus its attention on
a submarine.
A submarine that went down 4 days ago.
And exploded basically immediately. So the whole media circus didn't matter.
Right. It wasn't even helping anyone. And, things like infrastructure and bridges and energy and all
by
this,
the way, that bridge...
It's also important.
That bridge that caught fire, they're working on repairing it. I guess they did in a near land speed record or whatever. Again, they basically rebuilt the bridge in like a week and a half while no one was looking.
And yet it takes 7 years for them to build anything around here.
Correct.
The unfortunate fact is that human beings have a tendency to focus on the latest and newest and biggest and flashiest things and not focus on the things that are slow and steady and have to have attention over the long term.
Correct. Slow and steady wins the race, the rabbit has been taught. But the rabbit does not want to listen to the turtle. The turtle has the right idea. But the turtle speeds up when he has to, slows down when it is important, and he still wins.
I wish that more people would hear and understand those types of stories. Because.
Or the story of the Lorax. The Lorax speaks for the trees. The Lorax is more interested in helping out others, figuring out a way. Sit down and talk with the Lorax. Sit down and figure out what the Lorax wants and how to achieve both goals. Yes, you might not have large industry, but you'll have sustainable industry, which is larger. A sustainable industry is much larger than new money. New money is, I need that flashy car, I need that Bugatti, I need this thing, I need to put diamonds in my head. The rapper says, I need to put gold chains and surgically implant them into my skull. I'm like, what? Rappers are notoriously not the smartest human beings on earth. They have more money than sense, and they have no idea how to spend this money.
Well, when you talk about new money, that's one example. Another example is
Andrew Tate,
yeah.
New money.
I
come from old money. I think Andrew Tate's an idiot.
Yeah. I've heard that he has been arrested, finally.
He's been arrested. He got let out on prison, and he finally got indicted.
Yeah.
For what, we're not going to do that on this family show, but we'll let you do your own research.
Yes, for those who may not know, Andrew Tate is you could call him a jerk influencer.
He's a meme.
He certainly is, but he's famous for being a jerk to people, essentially.
Correct.
One of those, and
one of those intellectual types.
Oh, sure. One of those intellectual. Yes, intellectual, so smart that he ate a pizza on his Twitter video that showed where he was located while the police were looking for him.
Genius.
Buddy, you are not very smart.
You rolled a 1, bub.
It is interesting to me, the fascination with this type of person, because he, on the one hand, I can see how someone might be like, oh, well, he gets whatever he wants. But on the other hand, it's like,
he gets whatever he wants, but what you want isn't what you need, isn't what you deserve.
Well, knowing what is important in life is
having the flashy car. Sure, it's important. Having the flashy car and the means to use it, and not committing massive felonies across the board.
I would definitely recommend that our listeners not commit felonies.
If you're going to commit felonies, well, I can't stop you, but if you do profit massively, our charity is always accepting donations, and we don't question where the money comes from.
Oh my God. Don't clip that out of context, please. Speaking of which, we have our charity now set up called Donate by Mail. Donate by Mail. And we are working on setting up the ability to sell and purchase and sell and get donations in of used items to kind of make an online thrift store.
Correct.
We are thinking about primarily focusing on technology because there's such a great need for these types of technology devices of people who are disabled, are students and veterans who are disabled. They have just an enormous need for these items, especially computers, like laptop computers, to be able to go to school. And good luck trying to get through college without a laptop computer. The ability for people to donate these items and for us to be able to give them to people who need them, I'm really excited about the prospect.
I am too. It will be a very fun and exciting opportunity for everyone involved. Anything else you want to say on that topic, or shall we move on to the next one?
I think that we will take a quick break and be right back.
I think so as well.